Okay, complicated troubleshooting of a Magnum inverter battery charger, which was working perfectly up until we got here to Alameda Bay from Ventura. That's when we plugged in our 50 amp circuit, and we discovered that we had a polarity problem on the panel. So this light here was on for polarity. We have since moved the boat to a different shore power pedestal. It works fine. Battery charger was no longer working, so this is what we were getting. It was working fine coming up the coast on generator power. So we got a fast flashing charge light and a fault for a dead battery. Anyway, so back to the AC panel. So here we lost our line 1. As you can see right now, it's turned off. So now line 2 is working. That's the air conditioning panel down there. All right, with 200 plus volts. So here the two lines for the 50 amp, one's working, this one is not. This is the line that goes through the inverter and comes to this panel. So it goes through the inverter first and then comes here. So if the inverter's not working, then you get nothing here, and that was the symptom. So we have those things all happening. So now what do I do? All right, talk about a mind blower. This is a MS2000 Magnum 50 amp inverter charger. Over there on the left side is a 40 amp 12 volt charger, and to the right, the big black box, is a 30 amp 24 volt charger. Below that, you got a whole series of battery bank isolators, old style isolator, draws a lot of power, hence all the fins. So a fuse up there, and a shunt there next to it, and generator. Here you have this generator panel, inverter battery switch. All kinds of things going on here, and we had all kinds of problems. This has been a real head scratcher for me. All right, so when we came in from our delivery, everything was working fine, and then we plugged into shore power, and we had a polarity reversal on the shore power. And then immediately, bang, the charger didn't work. So I'm thinking they're related somehow. I went through the troubleshooting process, checked voltage at the output side, so am I getting battery voltage across there? And the answer was yes. Right, and then I have the cable right here connected. So the answer was yes. I'm getting shore power here, and so the symptoms were basically I lost line 1 on the AC panel, because line 1 goes through the inverter. Line 1 operates all the inverter type outlets, the outlets themselves, and various lights and other functions, refrigerator, whatever. So that's the inverter line 1 circuit that this controlled. So when this dies, it takes line 1 with it, and it's gone, right? So the symptoms are for a bad charger. Line 1 is gone, and I get no output, all right? So all kinds of things. I took this thing off the shelf here, and it wasn't grounded, and it wasn't even screwed into the shelf, by the way, so I had to do all that. Thing was just loose on top there. This was installed in 2019 by somebody, I don't know. Anyway, so I took the whole thing apart. I looked inside, I checked the ribbon cable and anything else that might be loose inside. Checked for voltages. I looked for the voltage in, which was fine from the shore power. And I checked the output voltage, and there was nothing. I reset it any number of times. And sometimes it would pop on, sometimes it would not. So one of the symptoms, of course, is no power on the battery charge leads. And as you can imagine, with how many different banks of batteries we have on this boat, quite a few, I had to go through all the batteries and check them and make sure they were all load tested and working properly. The display for this thing, it's a Magnum display, says low voltage battery is the fault. Right, so that could be anything, including a bad charger. So, back and forth a number of times. This has been a head scratcher. So eventually what I did is I finally made a long enough jumper where I jumpered the output of the charger to a known good battery and gave it 12 volts, and it popped back to life, and I reset it and everything was working fine, and it was putting out 14 volts, whatever. So it worked. And then I put it all back together again, and it didn't work. So this has been ongoing, and what I finally found after all this time, I'm sure I'm missing a few things, going back and forth like I've been doing, is this is where that battery cable terminates, right? So this is the inverter battery cable, big red one coming off the inverter there. It's going to here, and then from here you can select house 1, house 2 to be your inverter battery for the inverter, right? And this is the house system, as far as I understand it. So I traced the cable to here, and I'm getting 12 plus volts here on one of these cables, and I did an ohm check to make sure I'm looking at the right cable. So yep, there you go. So I got an ohm check, and it's that far away one. And then when I went ahead and moved the switch a little bit as I'm flipping through the switch, and I'll do that right now, you can probably see there's on, and up there's good. Yep, no, so that's back to both again, and now you can see the voltage go away. So hours and hours and hours trying to figure this thing out, going through the entire boat, trying to get a feel for the battery charging systems and all the battery banks, because nothing's labeled, of course, having to test each and everything, and it finally came to this. I've got a bad switch. All right, maybe you can see that right there, but there's a crack right in the back of the switch right there. See that? Yeah, looks little crackola. So I don't know if I can do this with two hands, but ohm meter, and I'll wiggle the switch. And you can see just a little bit of contact. No, so no contact there on both. If I wiggle it, yeah, it goes in and out. So that's what it is, bad switch. And for some reason it developed a crack right there, overheating or whatever. So now I'm on the port side engine, and we weren't getting a charge from the port engine coming up the coast. So figured it was dead. And so I put I'm doing a continuity test here, so I got a clip on the positive lead right there. I don't know how well you can see everything, but here's the fuse. This is a 105 amp fuse for the alternator, and get a flashlight so now you can see it, and I'll put the ohm meter on the cable. You can hear that continuity. And if I go on the back side of the fuse, though, you'll hear this silence. So we got a bad fuse. This little guy right here is breaking the continuity of that cable. I found that because I was supposed to get continuity up to the isolator. So when I came up here and put my test lead on the 12 volt cable coming from the alternator on the port engine, which is right here, which feeds 3 12 volt banks, I wasn't getting any continuity here. So the problem had to be a break in the cable somewhere, or I don't know what the heck I'm doing and I got the wrong cable. So anyway, I traced this back to the alternator and found that fuse. So there you go. We'll fix that problem. All right, so before I jump for glory, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a volt test on the alternator output and see what we got. So I'll start the engine up, and put leads across the back end of the alternator here and see what it's pushing.